Congress is about to greenlight more money for this war with Iran. Of course! Now, they didn't tell you that before the war, right? But they're telling you now. So here is Axios reporting. House Speaker Mike Johnson said Congress may need to consider supplemental appropriations package down the line as in very, very soon. Quote from Mike Johnson, there are more details to be determined on how long the operation goes and what the need is. Well, I'm pretty sure I know how that's gonna go. Glenn, you've seen this movie before. They're gonna ask for a lot more money, aren't they?
I mean, look at how, it's shockingly costly. That's the other thing. Iran is using cheap drones of the kind that has been used in the battlefield in Russia and Ukraine, and also just often crude ballistic missiles. And the most expensive weaponry are the anti-missile defense systems that we quickly were depleted from using. Those Gulf state regions are depleted. Israel is going to quickly be depleted. A lot of people think they had to end the war, the 12-day war last year, because Israel had no more defense systems to shoot down Iranian missiles, the ballistic missiles. Do you know how expensive these missiles are? To say nothing of these gigantic aircraft carriers and massive military assets. You're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. Once people realize how much money is going to this as well, and as you said, Cenk, all the things that they don't have that they should, I think the anger is gonna be even more intense.
Yeah, so I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about how much it's gonna cost. Then we're gonna move on to, oh my God, are we gonna get badly hurt here, including Israel? Because of some critical facts about Iran's weapons versus our weapons. First, the cost. President Donald Trump, this is from Forbes, military strikes in Iran have likely cost American taxpayers over $1 billion using cursory estimates, with hundreds of millions lost on lost aircraft over the weekend, with a price tag that could approach $100 billion. Depending on how long it can stretch on. There is no end to how much money we will spend for Israel. Now, let's go to stay with Forbes. They explain Brown University's Cost of War project estimates the military's operations in Iran, that was a Freudian slip of almost said Iraq, in Iran cost between $2 billion and $2.25 billion in 2025. So that money's already gone, the $2.5 billion gone, right? Now we might spend another $100 billion. Okay, but how's the war gonna go? Now we go to Daily Mail for that. Buckle up, guys. A single Iranian drone can cost as little as $35,000 to produce, while intercepting it can cost anywhere from $500,000 to $4 million. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. That is a big problem. If their drones cost 35K and to intercept them costs $4 million, we're in a lot of trouble financially and actually in our ability to keep up with those missiles. In fact, let me tell you more. They say rather than a few thousand long-range drones, Iran's total Shahed fleet is estimated between 80,000 and 100,000 across all variants. Okay, so that's a lot of drones and that's a lot of weapons that Iran has. And we had the false belief, it's okay, there's Iron Dome, there's THAAD missiles, Patriot missiles, we'll just knock them all down. Well, let me show you a graph here of that gives you the context that you need. You got the 80 to 100,000 Shahed drones that Iran has, 1,500 ballistic missiles. Okay, but we've got interceptors, our coalition interceptors there. Wait, 5 to 8,000? Without even getting into the future and all the things that they could produce and how little it costs for them and how much it costs for us. We only have 5 to 8,000 interceptors and they have 80 to 100,000 drones. I did the math on that. That is not good, okay? That means we're very likely going to run out. It's going to be super expensive. And during the 12-day operation back in June, a Midnight Hammer, we already depleted a quarter of our interceptor missiles for the entire United States military. A quarter already gone in just 12 days in the earlier war. It's hard to imagine that we're not gonna run out. So, but there's even more depressing news. Every interceptor deployed to protect one base is one that cannot be used elsewhere, since interceptors are finite. This leads military planners to stretch their resources across thousands of kilometers, leaving weaker protections in each location. That is why Iran is attacking in so many different places. We got to go try to protect over in Dubai and then up in Cyprus and Israel and our fleet. So they're spreading us thinner, and it doesn't cost them that much because it's inexpensive drones to spread us thinner. During the conflict last summer, they explained the US alone fired 150 THAAD interceptors to defend Israel over just 12 days using roughly a quarter of its stockpile. Each of those interceptors cost about $15 million and can take 3 to 8 years to replenish. We don't have 3 to 8 years to replenish our $15 million interceptors. Then Daily Mail continues using that data alongside current exchange rates between cheap drones and expensive interceptors. A prolonged campaign could run into tens or even hundreds of billions of dollars. So, Glenn, let me bring you back in here. Could we really run out of these interceptors and have these drones start to do significant damage to Israel, to our bases, and maybe even to our fleet?
Yes. Cenk, during the 12-day war and after as well, I interviewed Dan Caldwell. I don't know if you know him. I really highly recommend him if you haven't had him on your show. He was a very top level Pentagon official under Pete Hegseth and kind of got pushed out as part of this power dynamic, but he was part of this anti-interventionist wing that had been in the Pentagon. And he talks in very great detail about how, as I said earlier, the Israelis and the Americans were running out of anti-missile systems. And they're not just things that you order up from Boeing and they're on the battlefield the next day. They're extremely lengthy. They're very complex and difficult to produce. And already the UAE and Qatar and even maybe Saudi Arabia are running out. And that's why they're saying, hey, this war has to end. Without those, if those run out, it's open season on the entire region. And let me just quickly add, Cenk, like in terms of how long this war is gonna take. I think people forget, we were told that we would win the war in Iraq in 2 to 3 weeks. Obviously that didn't happen. Not only didn't it happen, but huge unforeseen things happened, like the emergence of ISIS that emerged in the power vacuum that we created, as even Tony Blair admits. We're in extremely dangerous territory here. It's hard to really overstate. Like, you can't be hysterical about it because it is worth maximalist warnings.
Yeah, Wall Street Journal also agrees. They write in, US commanders in the region oversee coalition air defenses that include local partners, but both have been overwhelmed at times by Iranian missiles and drones in recent days. We're only a couple of days into the war and we're already overwhelmed by their drones. This is exactly the thing that I was worried about. You guys heard me say it on the Young Turks many times. Said, yeah, we have these giant aircraft carriers, but now hundreds of drones can do massive damage. And now our defenses are already beginning to run out. This could end very, very badly. I mean, look, we had Wesley Clark Jr. say this about a decade ago on the show. He said, look, we're totally misunderstanding new modern warfare. We're not ready for it. All of our equipment is gigantic and clunky. In the era of drones, like he was talking about China, if we went to war with China, they'd launch thousands and thousands of drones. And how are your ships and your planes going to be able to handle that? And they can't. So, Glenn, one more thing about that. I mean, here we are busy in Iran and already starting to worry about our defenses running low. What if Venezuela goes, hey, you know what? Man, I don't think we're gonna listen to you anymore. I mean, your fleet's gone. What are you gonna do? You're gonna start a second front? Or if China comes to take Taiwan, there's no way in the world we could defend Taiwan, right?
Yeah, this is the irony, is that the consensus of the foreign policy establishment, going back to the first Obama term, was we need to pivot away from the Middle East and start to focus on the Pacific because we perceive China as being our primary adversary, and we need to make sure that we're containing them and they're not gonna be able to just expand their influence. We've been trying that for 15 years. We cannot extricate ourselves from the Middle East. It's not because of oil. We have plenty of oil. All those countries will happily sell as much oil to us as they want. It's because of Israel. And this is just another cost added on. Exactly what would stop China from going and taking Taiwan the minute they want? I mean, I think what's happening is Taiwan knows that and is no longer trusting the US, and their politics are changing and becoming friendlier to China because they don't think the US will or could intervene in their defense against China if China decides decided to be as hostile as possible. But this whole pivot to Asia has never happened because Israel drags us down in that region and makes us stay there in a region where we really don't have vital interests any longer.
Yeah, and I'll end on this for this story. Trump is aware that we could lose more soldiers. In fact, we've already lost 6. And he says, and sadly, there will likely be more before it ends. That's the way it is. Well, it didn't have to be that way. He chose to make it that way by starting this disastrous war for no reason, where we have no American interests at all.